Welcome everybody to Town Hall number 76. Now, work-life balance is a constant juggling act for many of us, so it's with great pleasure that the two workaholics, Adam and Colin, have both taken some time out today to focus on their family. Colin is actually celebrating a beautiful 25-year wedding anniversary with his wife, Kaz, while Adam, on the other hand, is looking after his fiancée, Shannon, who unfortunately got stung by a scorpion in Mexico. So he's off doing duties looking after her. That leaves an introvert like myself to run my very first town hall, which I am eager and excited, mainly because I've got two fellow Aussies joining me. One Orange Cow founder, Byrne, a BC partner since 2006, and also CTO Richard Lane, who also has been starting to build on BC since 2008. Together, they're here to share with us some of the amazing work they've been developing on platformOS. They'll be giving us an early sneak preview of their CMS system designed for franchise businesses. And in the near future, we'll be rolling out multi-site web solutions for franchisees. Also, the hot topic at the moment seems to be all about data importing. So I can't wait to see the data importer and database management tool that Brendan and Richard have been working on, which to my understanding are in the finishing stages of being available very soon by the module marketplace. So without further ado, I hand over to Brendan and Richard.
Yeah, thanks, Clark. Well, I'll start the sharing of this this screen. Here we go. Let's share that. Is that visible? Can you see what's going on there?
Yep, it's great.
Yeah, great. So I'll just give a really 2-minute, 10,000-foot view of One Orange Cow and where we've come from. One Orange Cow was formed about 7 years ago after I sold my first BC reseller business. In that time, if you include the previous business, we built about 250 different sites on Business Catalyst. We did a lot of work for other partners as well. And that was everything from your little 5-page mum and pop websites through to Fortune 500s that were needing obviously a little bit more depth in what they could do with Business Catalyst. So we had Richard helping us out back then, even before he joined One Orange Cow. Yeah, so that's not working. There we go. That's the button. So Richard's background, he did I just miss a slide? I did. I was going to talk about us. So Richard, the CTO, he joined One Orange Cow almost 6 months ago now. I've known Richard for, I think we're up to about 25 years now, isn't it, Richard? Seems like a long time anyway.
Unmute myself, but you're correct.
Yes. So really excited to have him on board to sort of lead out the technical, more technical work that we're able to do now. So that's exciting. So Richard has a really weird depth of experience. He built this interface to a Porsche to make a virtual, he can tell you more about it, a virtual driving experience, an interface with all the controls that are normally in a Porsche, which I think is really cool. He's been, last year he headed up a company that won blockchain business of the year in Australia here. Really a wide depth. He tends to come at it from a point of view that what's the problem we're trying to solve, and then find the technology rather than getting stuck in I only do X. So really happy to have Rich on board. During the build out of the BC clients, we had Fortune 500 companies that needed unusual things with their shipping gateways. I'm sure everyone who was a BC partner will remember that shipping was something that BC really struggled to provide, something that was really great for everyone, particularly if you were integrating with other systems. So we built a boxer and a calculator for some people, and did a bunch of other work as well. More recently, I had a little problem with Wires. Wires suddenly went from being a small state-based volunteer organisation that was rescuing animals to a massive worldwide known NGO that had literally, I think one day on BC we had 850,000 visitors And in January, they had, last count, actually no, in the first 2 weeks, we had 175,000 donations. BC was really struggling with that, not surprisingly. And so we built on SiteGlide a donations form. And that sort of typifies our work. We look at what the problem is and then find the best solution to get it across the line. We built it incredibly quickly on SiteGlide. It actually took more time to get the client to sign off on it. So it took about another week and a half for them to sign off and say, yes, let's switch. And that's going great guns, and really enjoying the support that we're getting out of Martin and the team over there in making that really fly. And even Adam was getting on board to help us make sure the page was going to handle the load that we're expecting, and it's going really well. And they're wrapped with what their new system is going to be able to do. Now we've got to port the rest of the website over there. So that's sort of the nutshell of where we're at. And I want to hand over now to Richard to run through the demo. Over to you, Richard.
Okay. All right, same question. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. I'm Richard. New CTO at One Orange Cow. I guess Brendan's done quite a good introduction for me already, but what we've developed here is what we're going to talk about today. Is very early stages of our CMS system. It's still a bit green, but I think it's at a point where we can show it off. We're going to show off some other little tools that we've built, as well as our data importer. Firstly, I want to say, and this is probably information, or you've heard a lot if you're a developer, but using the reason I'm quite heavily invested in platformOS is it does a few things straight out of the box that other systems you might have to play around with, and some of it's similar to other software as a service platforms, but mainly you get out of the box, you get user authentication, you get database scaling, you get web server scaling, you get a sort of a semi-guaranteed uptime, you get a security to a degree, in the sense that you obviously have to code, but there's people in the background doing that. So we've actually decided that as a platform, or as a system, platformOS is going to be one of the basis of all our things going forward, because it is so flexible, and it's allowed us to actually take existing sites that have been built in certain ways and port them to platformOS. I'll even go out on a limb and say that platformOS's Liquid engine is probably the most powerful I've ever seen out of all the Liquid engines that are out there. It does things. It does things very, very well. So much so they've actually ported some PHP into platformOS's Liquid. Not extensively, but some of it I've been able to almost just look at it and not copy and paste it, but transfer the logic over. So without further ado, we'll get stuck into our demo. So obviously, this is using the users table.
Can I interject there, Richard, and just say, we weren't paid to say that either. So, so Adam, when you're watching the recording, I'm expecting that payment to come through.
No, I say it because people wonder why we chose this platform. So, yeah. So obviously, we've got the login here, and I've already entered in the information. And we're going to log in, and obviously, so that's going to come up. So what I'm going to show you first of all is some of the systems here, and what we've done here is we've developed a what we call it's a relational database system, and the server seems to be taking its time. There we go. Oh, there we go. Gateway timeout. platformOS is reliable.
The joys
okay.
of a,
there we go. Refresh. 504. 504 is actually traffic, so I don't know why I did that.
It's Zoom. It's definitely Zoom. It always happens when we're in a Zoom session.
Yeah. All right. Well, quick refresh and we're there. So there's a couple of things I want to show. Is my screen still sharing?
Yep.
Cool. So what we've come to this with is platformOS has a NoSQL database, and for existing customers, they may not necessarily have that type of system. And then for this particular customer that we were modeling our system on, they had a massive relational database table. And for people that don't know what that is, it means data that's connected one table to another, or one set of data to another set of data. So without sitting down and massaging that data, we had to build a relational database system on platformOS. And what we've found is, and talking to the developers, the filters that are available on the joins have allowed us to do very, very complex joins and multi-joins. So not just one table to another, but one table to many. And you can see that here. For example, if we go into permissions, this particular user can have multiple access to multiple different things. This is done through a relational table that's different to what you would normally do with a NoSQL profile base. And you can see you could add different things there and save it. Hopefully you won't time out again. There we go, cool. The other quick thing I wanted to say that we've developed for our system, we utilize the S3 direct upload, the UPI, what's called the UPI file upload system. That was a bit complicated for what we needed. So we actually developed, well, we reverse engineered what they already had. And we actually do this via Ajax. And we've actually uploaded that to S3 directly without having to do the drag and drop UPI and save. So this hasn't even saved yet. And we've just pulled back the file name. And that file name will actually save when we click the form. So that's something that's a little bit different that we will also probably put into the marketplace. The next thing about our demo is our WYSIWYG editor. Traditionally, platformOS uses markdown, and WYSIWYG editors normally do one of two things. Saving on the back end, it's called the delta, and that is normally saved either in markdown or sometimes HTML. The reason that we didn't want to do that is because once you have it in HTML, it's in one platform. It's in a format that's basically targeting browsers. So we created a WYSIWYG editor that saves in JSON on the back end. And what that allows us to do is then process the contents of that on the server side or on the client side. So we also built a JSON to HTML renderer on the back end. So for SEO developers or people that are very, very keen on SEO, we can now put this in HTML from a liquid command, obviously. So you can include this and render the JSON on the front end in JavaScript in the browser, or you can render it on the back end so it comes out as straight HTML. Some other things that this does is you can see we've embedded a video. This is something that Markdown does not support currently. So this is something that, and we've got a lot of obviously different embeds. So we've extended what platformOS can do from a WYSIWYG editor. This is really, really important for some of our customers that don't necessarily have the skills. They're more adept to using Word, or they're more adept to doing a blog, or maybe even just Gmail. So this has helped us get something to customers that they can be familiar with. Okay, and then the next part, this is our importer. This is a CSV and Jason importer, and it's dynamic, meaning you don't have to come with a structure. It will determine the structure and build the database table on the back end dynamically from the column headers. So you can throw any data structure you want at it, and it will pass it. When you install this module for the first time, obviously it's going to have direct access to your database systems on the back end. So we've established a very, very simple authentication, which when you install it for the first time, it looks at your user table and says, who do you want to give access to this? So we don't want to obviously have people installing the module and you've exposed your database or exposed your system. So what we'll do is we'll just create a new user. So you could obviously select an existing user or create a new user. So I've created a new user in this instance. And we've signed in. So that's given us a very, very, very basic authentication to make sure that if a newbie or a new person that doesn't necessarily want to know what they've done, install this and expose themselves to sort of people overriding their data. This particular version is very, very simple. It's created to be almost brand free. We've done that for partners. Coming up soon, there'll probably be 2 different versions, but more of that to be discussed. So we've got 2 different importer, or 2 different options, I should say. We'll start on the importer. Now, this is a system that allows, obviously, CSVs, there is a standard, but nothing seems to get exported in the standard. So some CSVs can have no headers, some CSVs can have, you know, not even CSV, they can be tab delimited. Some might have carriage returns, some might have line feeds, depending on where the data came from. So we've allowed to do a different line endings, different encodings. If you come with, normally you do UTF-8, but you know, some people may have done it. Comments is not a standard in CSV, but we've allowed for it because some people, some CSVs seem to do that. And we always got a delimiter as well. The delimiter is what, in this case, is the comma. So we've got some sample data. I'm just going to run through this quickly and do a demo, and we'll click pass. This is past the entire rows of data, and just showing the first 3. This is sample data; it's not real data. Showing through the first 3 lines. We have the ability at this point to modify the column headers if we want to. So we could change that to first name and last name if you wanted to. Do we want to import this to a new or existing database? I'll put this onto a new database. I will call it demo. We'll check if it's available. Okay, so there's no other table that's called demo. This is for the technical people. This is saving to the apps directory. We have 2 options. We can select GUI or the CLI. CLI, I'll skip over that, but all it does is save it as a JSON file, which you can run on the command line. So it just basically converts it, which most developers will be used to, but this obviously does it quite easily. In this case, we're using, we'll do the GUI. The GUI will process this in the browser. There'll be a new importer option coming very, very shortly. I know platformOS, the developers are working on a new importer, and we're working with those guys to speed this up. So in this case, it's basically saying, here's your summary, and we're going to let it go. So it's now chunking the data, meaning it's sending the data in chunks to the back end. We do that mainly because if we send too much to the back end, platformOS 504s, as you saw, it basically, if we send it too much data, platformOS complains, and that's what we're working with the platformOS developers about now, to make sure that we can speed up this process. You can see here that we've imported 20 rows, and that's been done successfully. So that's now imported into the table. And obviously, how do you see that data? Well, what we've done here is we've created a very, very simple database manager, which allows you to see all the different tables that you've created. So you can see here that this changed first name to first name and last name to last name. In this point, this particular version, we can delete it, or we can download the YAML file, which is basically the data structure that this database is built in. I guess we could delete it if we want to. So that's been deleted. If we had multiple tables, obviously you'd see multiple different versions of the different tables. This particular app, or this module, will be available next week in the marketplace. We're already working on, I guess, what you might call version 2. And it's got a lot more features that will, a lot of customers have been asking us for, and be able to manage their data. So I guess that's it for our demo. I'll pass it back.
Great. Thanks, Richard. Brendan, did you have anything to add on to that?
No, I just answered. There was a question in there from Shane saying whether they're saved as strings just before it came up and showed us that it was saved as strings. And yeah, one of our later versions will have the ability to actually edit the in that database manager that Richard finished off at. So yeah.
So I can actually answer that. Yeah, we are going to, in a future version, attempt to detect the data type or then allow on the import to override that. So that is a feature that is coming up. Part of the database manager, you'll be able to modify it as well in the future version. So
we're also really open to feedback. If you start using it and you think, hey, it'd be great if it could do X, Y, Z, just reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
I'd love to hear what you mean by data validation, Shane. Do you mean validating, making sure the data is XYZ before it goes into the column?
Yeah, so if you need to store, like you're trying to put a number into a Boolean field or something like that.
I mean, sure, we could definitely do that. It's not an impossibility. It would just be a feature we need to add. So we could basically say, you know, strict validation on this. Do a warning if it's not what it should be.
Yeah, because we noticed that platformOS, the CLI import has no validation, and so it's one of those things that catches you out that you got to be careful that you don't corrupt your database and have data integrity issues.
We control this import. We control the data before it goes to the import, so it wouldn't be a problem to add something like that. There's actually another question from Martin. It's primarily aimed at anyone particularly. Basically, the biggest problem is we had with BC clients is that they've got a lot of data in a lot of different systems and it's all different. So we created a dynamic tool that allowed it. So it's aimed at anyone that wants to import data. It's not particularly aimed at anyone in particular. So.
Great. And Martin also asked one more question there.
All the items stored in as DB items, or is it one field? You mean separate? I'm going to use the wrong word here. Columns? Like you've got a data model with different columns? Is that what you mean?
Would I unmute Martin and he can talk?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, so I was just interested to see, can you guys hear me or am I still muted?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we can hear you.
That's cool. So do you store them as full database items in POS or are they stored sort of in one string? So are you only formatting through JSON or like how far do you integrate into the system?
I might answer this question wrong, but what we do is we basically grab the header of the CSV and then build the data model. So you've got first name, last name, whatever. It's not importing the JSON into the column. It's importing the data into the, so you've got first name and then the data there. What you just saw, you didn't see the data, but yes, the data was there. So if I pull up the GraphQL query, I can query it and have the data in there. So those 20 rows, all that data is in there as well, yes.
Right, okay, cool.
Great. Any other questions from the group? Any questions at all? Now, I think, Richard, you already said this, but this will be available as of next week in the Modular Marketplace. Is that correct?
Fingers crossed, yes. And then we've already got the next version. We just want to get it there and get people playing with it. Let us know what you'd like to see, what's working, what's not working. We obviously can't test every single data set that's out there, so we'd love people to, especially other developers, to get their hands dirty with it and say, hey, you know, wouldn't it be great to do this, or this hasn't worked and we can improve it. We've already got a short list of things that people that have tested it have already asked for. So we're possibly aiming to have a version 2 or 1.1 a couple of weeks after that. So anyone that has any info or any feedback, would love to hear it. So.
Excellent. Please let us know when that's live on Module Marketplace on Slack.
So there's one question from mine. It's currently stored all as strings, but that's just how we've done it for now. But we will have the ability to import it any way you want. And I guess if you do want to import an integer and there's not an integer in that column, we'd have to do validation on that. But yeah, it's possible for a future version. Right now it's just strings, so that should, you know, cover most people's situation, but maybe not everyone. So we'll definitely look into that.
Great. It's a lot of good comments coming through. As I said, our new data import is on everyone's mind at the moment. So it's great to have both Brendan and Richard show us what they've been built on. Any further questions from anyone? No, doesn't look like it. It's a good 30-minute session. I know everyone's busy. So thank you to Brendan and Richard for taking the time out and sharing with us today. But also thank you for their continued relationship, having been VC partners since 2006 and 2008. You know, as so many of you that are here have always been a part of this community for many years, it's for me coming into it, it's quite heartwarming to see the continued relationship and growth of each of our channel partners. So thank you very much to you both. One Orange Cow, obviously the specialist in digital marketing strategies, setting up businesses for growth. You can always reach out to Brendan or Richard at oneorangecow, or one word.com to discuss anything you've seen here today, as well as engaging them if you want them to help with your business. So thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon on Slack.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Clark.
Great.
See you guys.
Yeah.